What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. It is Friday, October 22nd, and this is the Week 7 Picks Show. We are live on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6 for this show. It is a groundbreaking moment, an exciting moment, because we're going to see if Pete Prisco's internet connectivity and youthful technological skills can get through the entirety of a short bye-week slate. Joining me.
Well, we already have the biggest upset in NFL history. You were almost on time.
That's right. I didn't actually think live. I don't know why I didn't think that. RJ White also here. What's up, RJ?
Not much, coming off a terrible week on picks, public crushed, and every time that happens, you know, when you're taking these ugly teams, you're going to take a bath. So looking to get back on the horse. I don't think it's going to be a thing that continues where the books are just going to keep inflating these lines until these dogs cover. So I like this week.
RJ, we had crappy weeks. Wait a second. We had crappy weeks.
Before you say anything, I have a statement. I would like to issue a statement.
No, we're going to get to you in a second. Me and RJ had really bad weeks last week, but we looked really good compared to somebody.
I would like to issue a statement, please. I understand that there are some rumors, some speculation. Look, do you remember the famous Michael Jordan statement when he came out of retirement and he issued a press release? And it just said, "I'm back." Okay, so we're going to put week 6 behind us, and I'm just going to issue a very short statement, Pete. I suck. It is the single worst week of NFL picks I have ever had in my decade-plus career at CBSSports.com. I went 0-7 on my best bets. The other statement I'd like to issue is thank you to the Philadelphia Eagles for sliding in the back door on Thursday. And thank you to the Jacksonville Jaguars for finding a way to win on Sunday morning, because if they don't, and those two teams could have easily not covered or just lost their games, or they could have lost against a spread, I could have been staring down the reverse sweep, a virtually impossible feat that one would almost never live down for the rest of his life. I have heard Ryan Wilson chirping about it as early as Wednesday evening, and I've been prepared, Pete Prisco, for your incessant barbs about my bleepy week against the spread. So get it out, and we'll get moving with this week's show.
Well, I already said I said it about 4 or 5 times yesterday when we were doing the picks show, because Brady had a bad week. Brady Quinn had a bad week too. And I said, look, Brady, look at the bright side. As bad as your week was, it wasn't as bad as Will Brinson.
You know who I feel bad for the worst. We had a bad week. The guy who had the worst week is the one who watches the show every week and parlays the opposite of Brinson's picks, knowing that they have a chance of coming in, and he just missed it once on the Jaguars, and then he's like, I mean, I could have been a millionaire at this point, and just taking the opposite of Brinson. So tough beat for that guy.
Yeah,
okay, so Brinson went 0-7.
Look, I mean, honestly, I am curious what you guys think. I mean, you mentioned it, RJ, like the books are going to keep inflating these lines. We're seeing this week, it's the Cardinals are like an 18 point favorite over the Texans. It's, it's not unusual to see this once a year. It is, however, it's a massive point spread in an NFL game where if you're up 21 points against a team like the Texans, you're probably taking your foot off the gas. I am curious if you guys think that there's a chance we might be seeing, and I wrote about this a little bit in my picks column this week, which surely you should go read. I think somebody just alerted it, which,
You're due, man. You're due.
Well, I mean, look, I said I said week 6 was going to be chaos week, and there was going to be a ton of upsets, and I was wrong. It's very wrong. The only upset was like the Bills getting upset, and I had the Bills somehow. Do you think that there's a chance we're witnessing separation of elite teams and really bad teams? Because this happened in baseball. I don't know that it can happen as easily in the NFL, because in MLB, you have these teams that are going to win 60 games and these teams that are going to win 110 games. And it got to the point where you couldn't even bet on like the Dodgers or the, Dodgers, Yankees, et cetera, because the line was like minus 200 against the Tigers or the Pirates. And even the run lines, which they're minus 1.5, are minus 125. Are we seeing any kind of separate? Is that a trend we might be seeing in terms of NFL betting, or is this just sort of a natural inflation of point spreads and eventually it's going to come back a bit?
Yeah, well, I think I do have some separation. I had some separation from a lot of the season with the top 10 or so teams in my power ratings. I think going into last week, or maybe it was the week before, I only had 11 teams with above zero. In terms of their power rating. So 20, whatever that number is, 21 teams average or worse. So that is indicative of some separation. But those teams covering last week. I mean, the Colts aren't an elite team, and they covered 10, no problem. So it's just. I think it's just a weird week where typically you have these big spreads and these underdogs. Somebody shows up, and last week just nobody showed up. Like Detroit, didn't come to play. Giants didn't come to play. Nobody really had one of those games where the underdog surprises a little bit. And so when that lines up for the same week, you have one of these weeks where the favorites just roll and all the underdogs.
That means this is flip it around week. It's flip it around week.
Well, that's sort of
anyways, let's put the season put those season records up, Brinson. We want to see that.
We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. Guy, you know who loves this is Devo. Devo loves seeing me. I mean, look at his statement. Brinson sucks so bad at betting.
I want to see the overall season record. Put it up there, Devo. I know you got the graphic. We want to see Brinson's misery. That's what I want to see. I want to see how bad it is.
I guess that's what I'm wondering is do we think flip it, like, do we think there's a comeback here by these huge dogs? Because it's worth noting, I was really surprised by this. I was thinking that, like, I mean, if you had to guess, what do you think the record so far this season would be for favorites against the spread?
The favorites?
Yeah.
Well, I know all the favorites on the road won last week, except for one of them, and that was Buffalo, right?
Favorites this season? Oh my God, I'm 15 games below 500. That is really bad. I apologize. We'll turn it around. 42-51 against the spread. Favorites on the season. That's 45%. Home teams 40-54 against the spread. That's 43%. Overs 40, 50, and 2. So that's 46%. And home favorites 22-33 against the spread. That's 40% for home favorites. Road dogs are covering at a 60% clip this season. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, and you think last year there was no crowds, and people said, okay, there's no home field advantage because there's no crowds. We're going to see that revert now that there's crowds again. And so far, I mean, it looked like in week one we might got a little of that, but so far it hasn't happened. So maybe it's just a sea change in the NFL where home field advantage just doesn't exist anymore.
Didn't all the road favorites, other than, I mean, we're going to throw Jacksonville out because that game was in London, but if I'm not mistaken, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, most of the road favorites covered last week. Buffalo didn't, but I think the rest of them did.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, because I was taken. I took. Yeah, that's right. Because I took home dogs. I was all over these home dogs
on Sunday. Yeah, Tampa didn't, but yeah,
right.
Tampa was a favorite.
That's right. The primetime games, the road dog did cover, and I mean.
The Rams were road favorite and covered. Who else? There's a couple.
The Sunday road favorites covered.
But then if you have some of those favorites, you're a little fortunate because Minnesota was a road favorite, Dallas was a road favorite. Both of them went to overtime, so they got played through regulation even. So if you had the plus money, you're like, okay, they played. Yeah,
but that Dallas game shouldn't have been that close. The numbers didn't bear that out. They got dominated.
You get to overtime and you get the Patriots plus 3.5 or plus 4, and they get the ball first. Like you're covering that.
You're feeling like you're. Yeah, you feel like you're going to cover that. Carolina completely blew that game. Same against the way they did against Philadelphia at home the week before. Carolina probably should have won and covered, even if Minnesota was.
What are you talking about? They needed a fourth down throw to even get it on that one drive to even have a chance to tie it up. They had no business being in that game.
They were winning the game until the block punt. What are you talking about?
They were losing by 10 in the fourth quarter.
Yes, they were winning and controlling the game, and Minnesota looked awful, man.
I disagree with you 100%.
All I'm saying, look. Okay, whatever. It went to overtime. The Panthers could have easily covered that game. And then the other one was the Bears and Packers game where, Aaron Rodgers runs that touchdown in to cover. And look, I'm not saying that the Bears should have covered, but in that spot when you're down 10 and you got a rookie quarterback, in theory, like you're going to be cutting loose and you feel like you've got a great chance to backdoor with like 2.5 minutes left on the clock. And they didn't. And that's fine.
We can play this game every single week, though. Losers and winners, both. Backdoor, should have did this, should have did that. If you look at the flow of the game, the Cowboys game, okay, the Patriots win the coin toss, they deserved it. They would have probably covered the number, but they got dominated in that game.
That's fine. Okay. I got
it shouldn't have been close at the end. The point is it was.
Right.
Thank you.
And so you figure you cover at that,
Yeah, I get it.
Most of the situations
again,
there, and there are games where teams get outplayed and they lose, or teams get outplayed and they win. And just look at that Dolphins-Patriots game in Week 1. Patriots had no business losing that game, but so that happens all the time. But it just felt like you take those situations and you're going to get a cover out of the dog once or twice in the schedule, even if they are getting outplayed. And last week, it just didn't happen. And the games that it looked like it was going to happen, where you get to overtime in these games, since they played them even up, they still don't cover. So it's just crazy week for the favorites there.
All right, well, let's get moving on the picks this week, and let's see if people are going to put their money where their mouth is. Obviously, the won't hit parlay didn't come through. It's now 0-6 in the season. We took 3 favorites. So the Steelers could have easily covered too. Anyway,
yeah, they should have.
Yeah, we start with a massive game for AFC. By the way, if you have a best bet and you're watching this on YouTube, leave it in the chat. We are going to have lots of giveaways. I mean, I guess we can give away the I suck hat, but there's you just look like an idiot walking around town. Whereas at least the Brinson sucks hat, people know that you think I suck, and I do suck at this point. Chiefs Titans. Chiefs -5.5 in Tennessee, in Nashville, with the Titans coming off a short week and a huge win against the Bills. Over under here is 57.5. If the total closes at 57.5 or higher, it's the highest closing total of the season. Chiefs Bills was the previous at 56. The 4 highest total games, 55 or up, are 2-2 to the split on the over or under. Chiefs Bills covered the over by 1. Bucs Rams covered by 4 or 3, I believe. And Cowboys Chargers and Chargers Chiefs both went under. Mahomes and Tannehill when matching up. This line is down to 4.5 at Caesars, by the way. Mahomes and Tannehill when matching up since the two groups got together in their respective franchises. 2-0 to the over, Pete. Everything's screaming over on this giant total, isn't it?
And I'm screaming over as well. Look, I know the Chiefs defense played a little bit better last week, but that was against a bad offense. I mean, Heineke is reverting back to being Taylor Heineke again. And so I think this is a different spot. I think that the Titans are going to score. And we've seen the history in these games. The Titans get after them a little bit, and the Chiefs come roaring back, and they score by throwing the football. And with all those injuries in the secondary for the Titans, I think there's going to be many opportunities. I said this last week. I think last week was the day the Chiefs decided they're going to be back again. And I think they're going to show it in this game. I think they're going to score points, but I think the Titans will get their fair share as well. So I am taking the over. I know it looks like the obvious play, but I'm taking the over with the Chiefs-Titans game. What is it now? Is it moved a little bit over our number or what?
It's still 57.5.
Yeah, it's going over that. It's going to be in this low 60s.
At 5.5, I like a lean on the Titans. Kansas City had trouble slowing down good rush offenses earlier in the year in Cleveland and Baltimore, and their rush defense hasn't been as bad lately, but they haven't faced any good rush offenses lately. So that's part of it. I can't see Tennessee's defense getting any stops on Kansas City, especially with the injuries that Pete was talking about. So if the Kansas City defense from last week shows up, they're going to cover. But I don't know that they will. Coming off of that win over Buffalo, I can't put Tennessee any worse than average in power ratings when you beat who I thought was the number 1 team. You got to be at least a 0, a dead average team. And Kansas City, if you make Tennessee a 0, would need to be the number 1 team in the league to justify being a 5.5 point favorite in somebody else's home stadium. So I see a little bit of value on the Tennessee side there. I think the market did as well because it's come down a point. Now it's kind of a little bit more of a stay away from me. I'm not really playing it at 4.5.
I will take the Chiefs. For a chalk. What am I doing? Look, here's the thing about Kansas City. I agree with Pete. I think that they have decided they are back. And as Brady Quinn and I told you, and as I have tweeted about and yelled about for several weeks now, the Chiefs are a good bet to win the division at plus 110 on Caesars at the moment. You can get some decent value on the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl and decent value on Mahomes to win MVP. Now, those are probably a little less likely given how well other people are playing, but we're still just 6 weeks into the season. We're literally a third of the way into the season. There is so much football to be played, and these winding roads that these teams take for these narratives can change dramatically. I thought the improvement from Kansas City's, I know they're playing a terrible WFT. I get it. That team's bad, but the Chiefs defense did look better. And if there's any improvement at all with KC's defense, and this team will start to really round into being a legitimate contender. And the thing about KC, if you look at how they've covered the last couple of weeks against Philly and Washington, granted, bad teams, but also defenses you can score on, they're scoring late. Like they know that they can't stop anybody, so they're just bombs away, even in situations where they've got a lead and theoretically might just want to run out the clock. And so I will take KC to roll in this one with Tennessee coming off an emotional win over the Bills on Monday night and playing on a short week. Bengals at the Ravens. The Ravens, these two teams, two good football teams. It's unbelievable. The Ravens dominated the Chargers in pretty ridiculous fashion, and the Bengals dominated the Lions. But now one's a little bit more impressive than the other, Pete. Is this Joe Burrow's time to take the division?
No, I don't know if it's his time to take the division, but I think it's his time to hang around in this game. I think when you look at this game, it reminds me of the situation that kind of played out with the Rams in Arizona a couple of weeks ago. Remember the Rams put so much into beating Tampa Bay at home, dominated them, and then a division team came in and they got dominated and lost the game. They were flat. They put so much into it. I think the Ravens coming off their Monday nighter and really put a lot into beating the Chargers. I watched that tape today. They had some, and I talked to a couple of players. They said that plan was unbelievably good, both sides of the ball, which tells you they put a lot of emphasis on what they were doing. I think even though this is a division game, I think the Bengals are going to hang around for that reason. I like what the Bengals are doing. They can pressure the quarterback. DJ Reader's playing well on the inside. Logan Wilson playing outstanding Pro Bowl linebacker type stuff. And I think offensively they'll score enough. So I'm going to take the Bengals plus the 6.5 in this spot.
I'm going to go the other way. I got a best bet on the Ravens. Third straight home game for Baltimore since he's playing the second of 3 straight road games. Since these defenses had good stats versus the pass and the rush this year, but they have played a lot of limited offenses, while Baltimore's offense is top 5 in net yards per pass attempt and yards per rush. So I think they're going to have success against the Cincinnati defense. The Baltimore's defense struggled versus Indy, especially giving up big plays. But, 2 of the other 3 weeks, they held Denver to 7 and Chargers to 6. So I think overall, they're a pretty good defense, too. It's the toughest matchup for Cincy's offense since the Chicago game, where they managed just 248 yards, 4 turnovers. So I do worry about the backdoor cover here with Cincinnati's weapons. At 6.5, it's a little high. But my power ratings put this at Baltimore -8. So I'm willing to lay it to go through the 7 and win by at least a touchdown. So best bet -6.5. The biggest concern for me is somebody else has a best bet in this game, too. So I don't want to line up with that person.
Yeah, I was about to say, I bet the Ravens earlier in the week at 6, and it looks like you see it on Caesars. It's 6.5. The Bengals plus 115. So maybe thinking about coming back to 6. Baltimore's just, I sort of think Baltimore might be about to flex on some folks. That's just where I see the Ravens heading. Lamar Jackson is playing incredible football. He is throwing the ball really well. He's seeing the field. I do agree with Pete that there's probably a little bit of emotional letdown, but you can't get too. I mean, I think this team is experienced enough in terms of their personnel, their coaching staff, and all that to look at the situation and say, "Man, huge win over the Chargers," but it wasn't like a crazy last second win. It was an absolute domination. And so you sort of have time to start rolling forward and get ready for the Bengals, which, by the way, is an enormous game in terms of AFC North implications. I mean, you're at home, you've got Joe Burrow and crew coming to town. And if you lose this game, it flips the division on its head. If you stomp the Bengals and make a statement and take shots over the top on them and put up a bunch of points on them, then it makes it an equally more impressive statement. I think Baltimore is ready to make that statement and sort of establish itself as a team that's chasing the number 1 overall seed in the AFC.
Villanueva is going to end up being a problem for them in the long run. Big problem.
Yes. Ronnie Stanley done for the year. He tweeted out pictures. Is he already on IR? He had surgery. So I mean, he is done.
He's done.
Yeah.
But Villanueva was not good again last week in pass. But he's going to have problems. I'm telling you. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets beat a bunch this week by those defensive ends who can rush the passer, Hendrickson and Hubbard. They're good.
Hey, Bengals defense, 5th overall in DVOA, 4th against the run, 8th against the pass. They are having that might be the least talked about turnaround in the NFL in terms.
They haven't played a lot of good offenses either, though.
It's true. We will see. Okay, yeah, I like the Ravens in this one to roll. We mentioned WFT at the Packers. Packers -8.5, over under 49. Aaron Rodgers 0-3 in his last 3 starts versus the Washington football team. 1-2 straight up, oddly enough. 2019, I think he won but didn't cover because it was a sloppy game at home, and then lost in 2018 to 2016, I believe. WFT 1-5 against the spread this season, worst record against the spread in the NFL. Their defense, we thought this defense was going to run the NFC East, and they are last in points per game allowed at 31 points per game allowed, last in third down conversions, 58% allowed, last in passing touchdowns allowed, 16, and last in passing yards per game allowed at 309.5. This unit is hot trash, Pete.
They're hot trash, and they're the biggest disappointment in the league so far, that defensive unit. If you pick one unit in the league, I thought they would be able to maybe carry that team. The secondary's been a disaster. There are guys open all the time. Were it not for Tyreek Hill dropping a pass that went for an interception, they would have gave up even more points last week. So I can't take Washington on the road against Aaron Rodgers. I'll take the Packers, but I'm going to use them in a teaser because I'm a little fearful of a backdoor because the Packers are a little banged up on defense. So I'm going to take the Packers as one of the first teams in my teaser. Tease it down from 8 to 2.
Yeah, this line was 9.5 earlier in the week. Is actually where I have it rated, and you can't really tease 9.5. So I was glad to see it started to come down 8.5 when we locked in our lines for the show. It's now 7.5. So people teasing in the market are going to get a good number there. I also have it in my teaser. I thought Washington was a good backdoor team, but they fell flat versus bad Kansas City defense last week. That offense might not be all it's cracked out to be. Some of that is the injuries. They got tons of guys banged up on that offensive side of the ball. I think a lot of them were able to practice on Thursday, so maybe they'll be okay to play, but who knows how effective they'll be if they're all nursing injuries again. With how bad that Washington defense has been, it feels like Green Bay can really name their point total, and a Washington offense showed when they're banged up they can't be trusted to keep up. But it is a bad spot for Green Bay. They have at Arizona next Thursday against what everybody assumes is going to still be an undefeated Arizona team, and then at Kansas City the next week. So this is a game that Green Bay should win. Maybe they're not mentally as focused as they usually are. And, it's a closer game than we think. But I think they win with Washington looking terrible. So I feel good teasing it down. So also the first part of my teaser at Green Bay, -2.5 on our lines and -1.5 in the market right now.
What do you guys think about Survivor this week? I don't have a best bet in this game. I'm taking Washington against the spread on the site. Don't feel great about it, obviously. I mean, it's hard to feel great about it. Would you, if you were looking at a Survivor situation, and let's say that you had available to you because the best team options I think are the Packers against WFT, Pats against the Jets, Bucs against the Bears, and Rams against the Lions. Also Cardinals against the Texans. Would you want to burn the Packers here or hold them for easier matchups?
I think a lot of people are probably using Arizona. I think they're as good as they are has probably been shocking to some people. So a lot of people probably still have them left. They haven't used them yet. So it just depends if you need to save them. If you're in a Survivor pool where you need to use them, I believe they either play on Thanksgiving or Christmas. So I think people might be looking to use them on one of those. I think it might be Christmas. So if that's an issue, you might want to save them for that, just planning ahead. But I think you got to get there first. So that would be the way I would look is Arizona. And if you have the Rams, then probably them. Might not go to Green Bay just, because it's such a bad look ahead spot for them. Maybe they come out flat, emotional win. Rodgers screaming at the Bears fans. Who knows how they play in this game. So
I'd play it safe and take Arizona. I was
looking at Patriots too, just because I don't know that I feel, we'll get to the Patriots in a minute, but feels like you're not going to get a whole lot of chances to use the Pats again this season.
True.
The Jets might be one at home. Oh, look at that. How fantastic. That's actually the next game on the schedule, Jets at Patriots. By the way, Ron Rivera, in his career, this is kind of a weird stat that I'm tempted to follow. As an 8-point or more dog, the over is 9-0 and an average of 52.9 points per game scored in those games. Jets-Patriots -7 over under 42.5. Probably won't get 59 points in this one. The Pats have won 11 straight games versus the Jets. It's the longest active win streak versus one opponent in the NFL. It's actually tied with the all-time most wins versus one opponent. So a win here by the Pats would give them the NFL record against one opponent. The last time they've lost at home to the Jets was 2010 divisional round. Sanchez, Ryan, Rex, You can bet Rex is rooting for the Jets in this one, but the Pats are 7-point favorites. Low total, Pete, here.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to break the streak in this one. I just don't like what I've seen from Wilson. And when you're playing Belichick, the defensive mind against a rookie quarterback, that's a problem. So I don't, think that the Patriots are that good on offense either. So, and the Jets are actually better on defense than you think. I think there's some good young players on that defense that are starting to play better and better. And I think after the bye, they're going to get even better on that side of the balls. But I'll take the Patriots, but I'm going to make them as part of the teaser with the Packers. I'm a little fearful of the, not covering that big number. So I took them in our picks, but I'm going to take the Patriots minus, tease it down to 1 here to team them with the Packers in my teaser.
Also part of my teaser, so I'm glad that we're aligned there. I think that we got to win.
And and by the way, we had, just to let the audience know, we had no idea what the other people's picks were, so we just kind of aligned.
Yeah, we don't copy everyone when we send our picks, and we just send them straight to Debo. So yeah, it was we just happened to nail it this time. And I think it's because there's not a
teaser just to submarine it. What do you guys think about that?
Please don't.
What's that? Stay away.
I almost
stay
took
away. Get out.
I almost took the Bucs as part of the teaser instead of the Pats, just because. But I don't love teasing out from that big a number, and there's just not really anything else I like to tease. But I am confident in the Patriots. I also have them as a best bet at -7. They were 6.5 at the Jets in week 2 and easily covered. So what's fundamentally changed that we're only making it 7 at home? The New England offense actually showed some life the last few weeks. Took Dallas to overtime when the D wasn't playing well. I know that Dallas outplayed them in that game, but they're still competitive there. They were competitive with the Bucs. The New England still has offensive line issues, but Shaq Mason could be back to provide help. Zach Wilson's looked good for a couple drives against the Titans this year and absolutely awful otherwise. And while Mac Jones has completed 70% of his passes in 5 of his 6 games, keeping them in most games. So I think New England's a much better team here. I just don't understand why this line is the way it is with the Jets being one of the worst teams in the league. So I'm willing to lay the 7. And because there's not a lot of great teaser options on the board, it's also part of my teaser.
So I will take the Pats as well. And, I don't think RJ had that in at first. And maybe you're copying my paper, RJ.
I did.
Oh, really? Oh, you did copy my paper. I'm glad you admitted that.
No,
okay, so
you probably didn't have it in at first, knowing you.
I would have taken, if I'd have known you were taking it, I'd have taken it off of my picks.
I've already bet all these the Chiefs, Ravens, and Pats. I bet early in the week. Look, the Patriots aren't. The thing about the Patriots that's different than in years past, I don't know if you guys realize this, they don't have Tom Brady, and it makes a difference because he sort of would take these games where maybe their personnel wasn't up to snuff that they needed it to be, and he was the deciding factor that would flip it over the top. And Mac Jones just isn't there yet, and that's okay. But Mac Jones has played pretty well, and we're still talking about a Jets team, even off the bye, with a rookie quarterback in Zach Wilson, who has flashed tremendous upside at various points, but has also shown an inability to avoid these turnovers. And he's thrown a ton of picks. Belichick is going to, again, for the second time this year, going to throw a ton of coverages at him. There's going to be a rowdy crowd in New England. This is a big game for the Pats if they want to get back into the playoff race. And, there's some open spots down at the bottom end of the AFC where, teams that are below 500 can still worm their way back in as a wild card. I think that means a ton to Bill Belichick, and the Jets just aren't very good. That's the bottom line. And I just envision a scenario where it's similar to that game in New York. A couple of turnovers for Zach Wilson. Patriots kick a bunch of field goals, like 26-7. You're going to have backdoor protection insurance, I think, in this game, just because of how the Patriots will handle Zach Wilson from a defensive standpoint. Eagles at the Raiders. The John Grudenless Raiders. Huge win over the Denver Broncos last week. You have to be. I am curious about the emotional state of this team, though, because you have. They go and win that big game after their coach gets fired. Is there a letdown spot here? Philly just sort of, I don't know. I don't know what to think about this Philly team either. Raiders -3, over under 49, Pete.
Yeah, John Gruden, right? They really showed how loyal and how much they really love their coach by going out and just destroying the Broncos the other day. And I think, you always talk about the little jump you get when a coach is fired, but this was a different situation in a lot of ways. So I don't know if it's exactly the same type of thing. I do think they're going to come down a little bit. That's only natural. And I think the Eagles getting rest will give them a little edge up in terms of that department. And coming off a division game for the Broncos. I mean, for the Raiders, going to be a little bit of a letdown. So I'm going to take the Eagle. I think this game's going to be high scoring. I didn't put the over in as the best bet, but I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I know the Raiders had 5 sacks last week and dominated, but I think the Eagles are going to be able to get Hurts outside the pocket and create some problems for him. And, oh, by the way, maybe they'll actually run the ball a little bit in this game as well. I'm going to take the Eagles plus the points, though. I'll take the 3 and make that one of my best bets.
If you're making a bet on the Eagles running the ball, and it's dependent on that. I wouldn't count on that because they just
Well, it's not dependent on it, but
yeah.
I'd like to see it.
But getting Lane Johnson back is going to help the Philly offense too. I don't know if I don't know if the Vegas got up for their first post-Gruden game and they're due for a letdown. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But they had a huge day offensively, 8.2 yards per play on offense versus what's supposed to be a good defense. I think that Denver's been overrated all this season, but I don't think their defense is Washington level bad or anything. And the Raiders just had an awesome day on offense. These teams have identical yards per play numbers on offense and defense though, so it seems like really they've been very even. So this line makes sense. But Philly's offense has struggled lately. The Las Vegas defense was in the backfield all game last week. If that continues, they're actually going to be a solid team moving forward. So my lean would be to Vegas at -3. I was very almost close to putting it to a best bet on this podcast, but it seems like the sharps are kind of on the Eagles every single week, and I'm sick of being kind of on the opposite side. I was with them last week, but I've been against them a couple of times, and maybe I'm just not rating this Eagles team highly enough. So just a very strong lean on Vegas as of right now.
The Lane Johnson return is enormous. He might be, I don't know where he ranks on that roster in terms of importance to that team, but there was always the stat with Carson Wentz at least, and I'm not sure if it applies to Jalen Hurts. We need to look it up. But when Lane Johnson was in or out of the lineup, Carson Wentz's quarterback rating and general production, was in like 2 different human beings. So Lane Johnson, a big factor there. I got the Eagles as a best bet too. And whatever. Look, I made a mistake last week on 2 of my best bets. One was the Ravens-Chargers. I knew actually 3 of my best bets I regretted like before they even started. Ravens-Chargers, when I started thinking about the matchup more closer to the game, I liked the Ravens. When the Browns' 2 tackles were out against the Cardinals, I was really upset that I had the Browns as a best bet. And then the Raiders and Broncos, when I saw Vic Fangio say that he was worried the Raiders would be like crazy hyped up and emotional for the first game post Gruden, I was immediately petrified about the Broncos' best bet and wanted to get rid of it. I think there's a natural letdown here. The Raiders had a crazy week last week. I mean, we're 10 days removed or 15 days removed from John Gruden being fired resigning in the middle of Monday Night Football. The Raiders took everything that was happening to them and like lasered it into that Broncos game. It's really difficult to do 2 weeks in a row. There's a natural sort of exhalation where you come back home and you're a favorite and Derek Carr's playing well. You feel like you can win. I think the Eagles go in here and take care of business and flip this on the Raiders. So, and the other thing is Debo writes cuss words on our YouTube chat. Wow. Yes, that's the benefit. If I bet the Eagles as a best bet and they don't win, it hurts Debo. So. This vengeance.
So it's a win-win then.
Yes, it's a reverse emotional hedge by a sick human being. Lions at the Rams. Rams -15. Over under 50.5. Pete, it felt like Matthew Stafford playing really good football. Oh my God, I forgot. This is the quadruple revenge game.
Yes, it is.
Stafford against the Lions. You have Jared Goff against the Rams. You have Sean McVay against Jared Goff against Sean McVay. You have Michael Brockers of the Rams against Michael Brockers of the Lions. There's all kinds of revenge angles here. I'm excited for it. Dan Campbell's team looked like they quit on him finally last week against the Bengals. Didn't have it. But you have to think they'll be a little emotional for this game, right?
And he called out Jared Goff publicly this week. Which, knowing right Campbell, that's the kind of thing where he said he's trying to light a fire under the kid. He knows he has nobody to throw to. They're terrible on the outside, and I think that's a problem. But I think they're going to hang around in this game. I think maybe I'm being a fool here, but I think the Lions, who have played tough, and just last week it got away from them, but most of the games they played tough. This is a big number. And I don't know if the Rams will be as focused as they would be, as say they were when they played Tampa Bay. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a letdown. And I'm going to take the 15. I'm probably regretting this, but I'm taking the 15 as one of my best bets. The number's too big.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever a fool playing plus 15 in an NFL game, just how NFL is, but I can't do it. Rams defense looked a lot better the last few weeks. It's bad news for struggling Detroit offense. Detroit's defense has the second worst yards per play number behind Kansas City, while the Rams offense is second best in yards per play. I did think the Lions were playing hard before last week. That was part of the reason I liked them going into the Bengals game. I think now they're in danger of quitting on the season. Why show up and play hard every week if these are going to be the results? But yeah, the Rams could be on cruise control. So it's a little bit of worry there, but I think Stafford will want to show out versus his old team. And I'm interested to see when Brinson thinks that the Lions are going to go to a different quarterback. What's his name, Brinson?
David Blau.
How you like me now?
How you like me now? David Blau. It is David Blau, right?
Right.
I don't think they're going to do somebody else.
The way that team is right now, it doesn't matter who plays quarterback. They're terrible.
No, we just like yelling. We just like yelling David Blau.
I don't think it's going to make a difference either way. But I just
get out of here, Wilson. What are you doing, you clown? Ryan Wilson shows up to the pick show. Look at, oh my God, please screenshot Pete trying to read that. Oh, Wilson says, how is Brinson an expert when he went 2-12 against the spread last week? Wilson has been chirping his ass off at me about these picks. Ryan is so far about the fall is going to be swift. It's going to be steep. And it's going to be. For him,
though. I picked up a couple games on him last week. I'm right behind.
I'm saying Wilson is going to crater.
Oh, he's going to crater. He did last year.
Yeah,
he was leading for a long time, and he cratered.
That's why he knows he either one of two things has happened. He either knows he's going to crater, and that's why he's like peacocking and enjoying his moment in the sun, or he's actually deluded himself into believing that this is going to happen for the full course of the season. At which point, please stop showing my picks against the spread, please.
You call crater, I call Wilson turning to his job description and focusing on the NFL draft and really putting a lot more time in watching prospects as we get close to the end of the
61, 30, and 3. That is a remarkable run. I think that's probably the best against the spread record of. And why does he have hair in this picture? Let's fix that. That is ridiculous. He doesn't have any hair.
Do I have hair in my picture too?
No. It looks like you have a little bit on top, like a little Pete Frohawk.
I still have some on top, dude.
We should Photoshop Brinson's hair on Prisco's picture right there.
I like it.
No, I don't want that nest.
Was it last week we were talking about Pete with a toupee? Would be incredible.
That would be the dumbest. That would be the ugliest, dumbest thing ever. But it would be funny to watch people's reaction. Oh, what happened?
Yeah. I don't have a best bet on this game because I don't. The thing that scares me about this game is, yes, the Lions will be amped up to play the Rams, and Jared Goff and Dan Campbell will want to show that the Rams maybe made a mistake by ditching Jared Goff too soon. But I'm a little worried that Sean McVay is going to want to show the world that Matthew Stafford is a massive upgrade over Jared Goff, and he's just going to keep – they kept throwing up a lot of touchdowns last week against the Giants. Like, there was no need for Stafford to throw that last touchdown pass, and they still kept slinging it. I'm a little worried that McVay might not, start pounding the rock once they get up big in this game and could end up just putting up a 50 burger on the Lions just to be like, hey, this is you. Now, I feel like Matthew Stafford wants to be more respectful than that, but it is in Los Angeles. I don't know. I can't take – I don't want to get in front.
It's not like Lions fans will travel and fill up the stadium like some of those other teams.
That's right. Panthers. This makes no sense. The Panthers are at the Giants, and they are road favorites. And I know that the Giants stink, and Joe Judge clearly has no idea how to manage the health of Daniel Jones because he left him in there late in that game against the Rams as he's getting destroyed. But the Panthers are a road favorite. Are you kidding me? It doesn't make no damn sense. The Panthers have looked terrible the last 2 weeks, Pete.
Well, Sam Darnold's looked terrible the last 3 weeks, and the offensive line, particularly the left side of the offensive line, and the center was bad last week. They were awful. They won my spinning top award this week. The center, the left guard, and the left tackle, they were awful, and I think that's going to be a problem for them. Look, the Giants aren't good. Let's not pretend they are. But I think in this spot at home, a week removed from his concussion, Daniel Jones probably shouldn't even play that game. He looked, and he didn't have any weapons either. They were hurt, and he looked just like he was out of it. And so I think another week removed, it's probably not going to be a high-scoring game. I think both teams offensively are really limited. So if you're going to give me the home team and 3, I'm going to take the Giants as one of my best bets.
I almost made him a best bet too. Giants looked as bad as anyone last week. They still came down off the look ahead of 3 initially, and now it's back there. Carolina's D started to fall apart, and the offense didn't look good against Minnesota until garbage time. It was really a fake final score that it was that close. Giants coming off 2 brutal games at Dallas and against the Rams. They competed well versus 3 easier opponents before that. And the Giants fell apart last week due to 4 turnovers. Carolina has just 6 takeaways all year. I think another problem for the Giants was the game plan's clearly, gonna make Kadarius Toney a featured part of it when he's healthy. And so you go into that week preparing for it, and he immediately gets hurt. So then you're kind of having to scrap and throw to Sterling Shepard a ton. Now he's already going to be out. You can prepare your game plan a little bit differently here. But really, it just comes down to how can you trust a team laying points on the road with Sam Darnold at quarterback right now, and you can't. So I'm a strong lean to the Giants +3. Almost made them a best bet too, but kind of want to see how they come out and play in this game first.
Yeah, I felt sort of the same way about the Giants. I don't think the Panthers are that good, and Panthers fans are starting to chat about what might be available to them early in the draft, whether it's my boy Icky from NC State, the left tackle, who could end up being a top 10 pick, looks really good, or even somebody like Carson Strong, because the Sam Darnold honeymoon appears to have hit the brakes pretty hard. They were showing shots of David Tepper, and he looked like an anxious hedge fund manager who was sick of the bad investment and was interested in trying to upgrade it. But I don't put it all on Darnold.
The talk around the league was that if Deshaun Watson didn't have the issue hanging over him, they would have given whatever they needed to go get him.
Absolutely.
And they still might.
If there's somebody who is willing to ignore off-field concerns and go get the superstar quarterback, I feel like it would probably be David Tepper over Stephen Ross, who's the buzz is all about that. We'll actually get to that in a second. But yeah, I would lean Giants here. The Panthers have no business being a road favorite by 3 points. I mean, none whatsoever, especially with New York has enough bodies in the front to get after Carolina. And I think there'll be some, I don't know. Remember when Gettleman took Saquon Barkley, took him over Sam Darnold. And that was the chatter was, should they take Sam Darnold at 2? And ends up getting Daniel Jones. And so there's a little bit of narrative here, I guess, for those two guys. Maybe not. Anyway, let's take a break. And when we come back, another impossibly stupid NFC South road favorite. Reminder, we are going live with this show on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube right now, leave your best bet. Put it in the chat. Let us know what you think. Who you think will be the best bet this week in terms of covering against a spread. We'll try and figure out a way to give out some surprises or something. I don't know. Maybe a gold star. If you get 3 best bets, if you put down 3 best bets and you get all 3 right, that means you'll have one more than I got last week. The Falcons are, and youtube.com/pick6. If you're listening on audio, you hit subscribe, hit the alarm button. You'll get notified when we go live. The Falcons are -2.5 at the Dolphins. The over-under is 47.5. Now, the reason Atlanta's a favorite, I think, is not because the Falcons are good, but because the Miami Dolphins are doing something that only 2 or 3 teams have done in the past, and that is return from London without using their bye. They're coming back from London after losing to the daggum Jaguars. You gave Urban Meyer his first win overseas. And now you have to face Atlanta, who is coming off of a bye, coming from London after beating the Jets, and you got no rest. Pete, do you think that how much of a factor do you think that is for the Dolphins here?
Oh, I think it's a factor, but I also think the way they played is a factor. I mean, they're not very good right now, and I think Atlanta, Matt Ryan's having a good season. Despite not having Ridley, and he's for some of the season, and the offensive line at moments, particularly left guard, having major issues. He's played really well for them, and I think he's going to play well here. The only concern I have with the Falcons and Matt Ryan playing well here is Jamie Eisenberg made Matt Ryan the start of the week, so we know how that goes. So that's my major concern. Although Jamie has hit 3 in a row of the starts of the week, if you can call running back getting 66 yards hitting a boom, but that's a whole nother story. But I'll take the Falcons minus the points because I just don't believe in the Miami Dolphins at all. We talk about I said the Washington football team defense was the biggest disappointment in terms of a unit. the Miami Dolphins are the biggest disappointment in terms of being one of the better teams, or a team I thought could push in that division. They're awful right now. So I'll take Atlanta minus the points.
And Miami is in the running for one of the worst team in the league, which is the only way this line could possibly make sense. But I agree that it does not make sense. I have a best bet on Miami on the other side of plus 2.5. Atlanta laid 2.5 on a neutral against the Jets. So we're saying now that the Dolphins are 2 to 3 points worse than the Jets right now at playing at home, because you got to give them something for home field advantage. I know it hasn't mattered much this season, but I'm not really willing to just throw it out and say, oh yeah, the Dolphins are so any worse than the Jets, really. So I don't know that this line makes sense. I thought Tua played well mostly against a bad defense last week. He gets another one here. Atlanta had an extra week to prepare, sure, but they had months to prepare for week 1, and they got blasted by the Eagles, who have turned out to be kind of a paper tiger, not quite as good as they looked in that first game. So Atlanta's played 3 bad teams in the last 3 games. All those games could have went either way. I think the market's giving them too much credit for getting 2 wins in those games. So I got best bet Dolphins plus 2.5. One of the reasons I didn't want to go Giants plus 3 is I didn't really want to take both of these teams again a week later after they completely disappointed. So if you have the courage to do it, go for it. But I'm going with Miami as my best bet out of those 2 games.
Yeah, I would lean Miami here as well. Don't have a best bet on it. I'm with you, RJ. I mean, you're taking, what's the meme? I think it's like a GTA meme where the guy's like, oh bleep, here we go again, as he wanders into the alley. It's like you're just backing the Dolphins and backing the Giants as home dogs. They're terrible football teams, but they're not. I think that's kind of the key here is, if you're taking the Bears as a dog against the Packers, the risk there is that a good football team just shows up and does what they do with Green Bay last week. Whereas we're talking about the Falcons are bad. Falcons are a bad football team. They are, since the start of last season, 2-5 straight up and against the spread as favorites, and 4-8 straight up and against the spread since the start of 2019 as favorites. They are 1-4 against the spread as road favorites since the start of 2018, and they have 2 wins in their last 10 games. Those 2 wins are against the Jets and the Giants. It's not a good football team. Before we move on, I am curious, Pete, with the Deshaun Watson stuff that kind of popped up on Wednesday. Do you think that he actually gets traded? Was that Houston trying to smoke something out? Because there was pretty quick denials from every team that was mentioned as a possible landing spot. Washington was like going to get Tua or something and then send a first-round pick.
I don't know how that one came around.
And
here's the way I see it. How can you possibly trade for him right now?
Correct.
With that as a backdrop. And I'm talking about, we don't know what his situation is, but if any of that is true, and again, it's going to go through the courts and the court cases and everything else. If any of that is true, you can't trade for him. So why not just let it play out? And then if you want to trade for him, go trade for him. It makes no sense to me. What is Miami going to do? Are they going to salvage their season if they made a deal for him now? Or are they just getting ahead of everybody else in case and taking the chance that it is fixed? I just can't see how a team can make a deal for him at all. And I don't think it will. I mean, personally, if you do, that's on you. And I think it's a bad move by the organization that does it. I'll be honest with you.
It's about the GM saving his job too. I mean, the way the Dolphins season is going, he's getting fired. And so if this is,
but he's not making that call, RJ. That's going to come from above.
Right. And so, but he has to bring that to the above. I mean, Stephen Ross isn't the one negotiating these deals. So if he can negotiate a deal that Ross signs off on, then I think it buys him time in that job. But I don't really think that it's going to happen. I agree with everything you're saying. But it doesn't make any sense for a team to trade for him now, while the stuff's still hanging over him. But the GMs that are negotiating for it, I think are doing so with their jobs in mind, thinking that they're going to get fired the way their seasons are going.
Yeah, it's the theory on the Chris Greer stuff was that he would trade for Deshaun in order to save his job, right? I mean, which is maybe just take the L on your job. The problem is the Dolphins. Like if the Dolphins traded for Deshaun Watson, they're going to want to play him to try and dig out of that hole and not give the Eagles.
He might not be allowed to play. He might not be allowed to play. Like
you would, the NFL vastly prefers that Deshaun Watson stay on the Texans because he won't play for him. They'll leave him inactive, and the league doesn't have to do anything when it comes to the commissioner's exempt list, and he's not in the headlines. It's been given what is gone on, what went on in the offseason and what's going on in the background off the field, in these lawsuits, it's a surprising non-story on a week-to-week basis. relative to what it could be. So
I think NFL paints himself in a corner though. If he gets traded and then they immediately put him on the exempt list, it's like, well, nothing new has developed in the off-field stuff. So why did you do that now instead of 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago? So I think he would actually have an argument. His side would have an argument there if they wanted to appeal that and say this isn't fair. Nothing new has changed. They should have done this 2 months ago.
Yep, I agree with that. Okay, just wanted to get some Deshaun Watson chatter in there since it'll be some buzz going on this weekend. But it was interesting that the Texans, like everything came out of Houston. And it looked like something was going to happen. And then very quickly, Miami beat writers, Washington beat writers, Denver beat writers, started saying it's not going to happen. Panthers beat writers even as well. Saints at the Seahawks is three of the 4 NFC South teams, road favorites. This is the Monday night game. Jameis Winston versus Geno Smith. Everything we've ever wanted in our lives, Pete Prisco, with this matchup in primetime.
Yeah, and the Saints are coming off the bye. I think they're getting guys back healthy. They've navigated the early part of the season very well. I think they deserve credit for that. I mean, all the hurricane displacement and all the injuries and everything else, they're sitting there at 3-2, and this is a winnable game. Normally you go to Seattle, you're worried about their defense, you're worried about the crowd, you're worried about Russell Wilson. Well, you don't have to be. Their defense isn't good. He played better, but they're still not good. That was against the Steelers offense. And I think, Geno Smith is Geno Smith. And so I think this is an opportunity for Jameis Winston to go there against a bad defense and a bad secondary and throw the ball down the field and put up some points. So I'm going to take the Saints in this game, and I think they cover the number easily.
I think I might be headed for one of us is headed for a brutal week because I got a best bet on the Seahawks. I was ready to count them out after the first half on Sunday, but they played well in the second half. I don't think they're necessarily sunk. New Orleans shot Green Bay in week 1. They've been pretty uneven since, haven't played that tough a schedule. And their offense, I think, is still pretty limited until they get, more weapons back there. Seattle sounds like they want to run more. This is not the week to do that. New Orleans defense is number 1 in yards per attempt on the ground. But it is a tough environment for New Orleans. Russell Wilson won't be there, but the crowd will be playing primetime in Seattle against the desert team.
Russell Wilson will be there, RJ.
Well, yeah, he'll be there to call coin tosses.
He'll have his
overtime.
fake huddles again. That was so corny, the fake huddle.
He went out to the coin toss. You're on IR, bro. Go.
I mean, but the fake huddles before the game, I can see getting a little workout before the game, but you got to fake the huddle. And he knew the camera was there.
Yeah, well, as Brady Quinn pointed out, you have multiple hours to get that done, or you could do that at home if you really needed to visualize it before the game. You don't have to go out there right before the game when the ESPN or the NBC cameras in this case were turned on. He very clearly was aware of what was going on out there. Anyway,
what was amazing about that is when he was simulating the stuff, he left a bunch of clean pockets, just like he always does.
So in order for this line to make sense in my rating, Seattle has to be Jacksonville level bad. And the market actually does think they are Jacksonville level bad because they're only -3 at home to Jacksonville next week. So on the look ahead. So maybe they are that bad. I don't really think so. I think they're better than a basement level team. So I think there's value taking Seattle. That's why I have them as a best bet.
We've made it a long way through the podcast and haven't come up with a single parlay leg. I agree with you on Seattle. Primetime game, crazy crowd. And the Seahawks, here's the thing with the Seahawks is while everyone's leaving them for dead, they have these 2 games at home Monday night against the Saints. And, Jameis Winston ain't scared to turn the ball over still. Seahawks defense isn't very good, but they can flip something. They can find a way to sort of generate some turnovers, get some points. Geno has made some throws. I don't necessarily like him in this spot, but I think Seattle can find a way to win and certainly a way to cover. And then they get Jacksonville next week on Halloween. So find a way to win. Just dig deep and find a way to win this game at home in primetime. And suddenly you could win these next 2 games. And I believe there are buys after that. And you start to think, all right, if Russ gets back, maybe we can make kind of a run here. Don't forget they're giving their pick away to the Jets in the first round, which is concerning.
For a box safety.
Yep. I mean, like I said, like I've been saying all week, and really, I mean, there's maybe 2 appreciating assets on the Seahawks roster. It's an ugly scene. Was there anything else we missed in terms of possible parlay legs?
Patriots, I think.
Oh yeah. All right. So let's do Pats -7 and Seahawks +4.5.
I don't like the Seahawks.
No, he doesn't like the Seahawks.
Oh, that's shit.
I don't like the Seahawks. I like the Saints.
Oh,
We had a couple others I think we agreed on, though.
No, I kind of scrolled through. I didn't see anything. So
should we skip the parlay for the week and do a teaser for the week and do Pats and Packers?
I don't want your stink on that. We'll figure out
I don't want you. Yeah. We don't want you anywhere near that.
I'm betting it. I'm sinking that ship, baby.
We're done.
RJ, RJ likes the Raiders or the Eagles?
I like
Raiders.
the Eagles. You like the Raiders.
We're on opposite sides. You're probably gonna have to find a couple totals if we don't.
Let's do. How about the Giants? We'll do Giants and Patriots as the first two legs.
That's good.
That's good. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, sorry. So those are our first two legs: Giants and Patriots. I don't know why I thought Pete was on the Seahawks. Sorry. Couple of games left. Texans at the Cardinals. The Cardinals are minus 17.5. And the over-under is 47.5. If Debo brings up the Caesars odds, I think that there's a chance that this line has even creeped up into the 18-point range. Kyler Murray playing some awesome football. But I will say, Pete, a little bit of a look-ahead spot for the Cardinals as they get the Packers on a short week coming up.
Yeah, and that concerns me a little bit. But then you realize the Texans are also playing consecutive road games. And it's and this one's outside the division after division game. And they're not very good. I mean, you clearly they're not a good football team right now. I think Davis Mills is more than capable of hitting a couple shots here, making you'll get a couple of those. But I think the Cardinals can do whatever they want to on offense. So for that reason, I hate laying this. I'm not making a best bet or anything, but I'll lay this 17.5 points. I don't really want to, but I will.
I could never do that. I'm going to lean to the Houston just because the number is so big. But I am completely sold in Arizona right now. After the Week 5 outlier, Arizona, throw that out, and Arizona scored 30+ in 5 of their 6 games, not including that game. Houston scored less than 10 in 3 of their last 4. Not including Week 5 when they were competitive against the Patriots, but they fell apart at the end of that game, and then they didn't show up last week. So who knows if they rally or they're like the Lions, they might quit on the season. You expect Arizona to win by 20+ here, but you get a small margin for error with a line this big, a fumble that you didn't expect goes to the Houston, and all of a sudden the Cardinals are winning by 16 instead of 23, and you're like, why did I lay such a big number? So I'm going to stay away from this. I don't have the gumption to take Houston because I think this line is pretty close to where it should be, even though I have a Cardinals a little bit underrated in my power ratings because I'm a little conservative to move teams up quickly. So this line could be fair, but I'm just not going to lay the points.
Yeah, I think I took the Texans against the spread in my picks pools and on the site for CBS, and I'm gonna have to go change that because you know what I just remembered? I can't believe this. I can't believe I missed this. I'm an idiot.
Revenge game.
Yes.
JJ Watt, and
DeAndre Hopkins. Oh my Lord. Nuke Hopkins and JJ Watt revenge game spots against the Texans. This is their first game against their former team. Of course, Watt has the most sacks, 101 in Texans history, and DeAndre Hopkins, the second most receiving yards in Texans history with 8,602 behind only Andre Johnson. Andre Johnson, most Pro Bowl selections in franchise history for the Texans, 7. Watt, 5. I don't know how he only did 5. Hopkins, 4. Man, this is I think I'm not going to make the Cardinals a best bet, but I'm changing my pick to the Cardinals. This is the most the Cardinals will have ever been favored against any team. I love a revenge game, dude. You don't think? I mean,
Jamie Eisenberg loves revenge games too. I don't. What does that mean? You play harder?
I think that I believe that while this is a look ahead spot with the Packers coming up and the Cardinals undefeated, that JJ Watt and DeAndre Hopkins have had this game circled for.
So they're going to play harder because JJ Watt plays hard all the time. So you're going to say he's going to play harder in this game?
This game means more to JJ Watt, and he will.
It might mean more to him, but what does it do? Does it mean he plays harder?
It means he a little more juice. More.
Then last week he wasn't given all the juice. It's an insult. That's an insult to a player.
Every player says this.
Yeah, look, they say, look, I'm looking forward to the game. It's going to be great getting against my old team, but that doesn't mean they play any harder.
JJ Watt and
play harder. That means you didn't play hard last week.
Dude, Jack Easterby is still on that team. He is in charge of that team. They hate that guy.
I get your theory on it, but you're saying that the player plays harder against his former team, which means he doesn't play hard like last week. JJ Watt didn't play hard against him.
I'm just saying there's a little bit of an extra edge for sure.
In your mind, but doesn't mean you play any harder. I don't buy that. I never have. It's an insult to the player.
I know it's not.
Yes, it is.
Well, you think what an insult to the player is getting rid of JJ Watt and trading DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson.
So J.J. Watt's going to play harder this week against the Texans than he did in the big game last week against the Browns.
DeAndre Hopkins cares more about this game than every other game on the schedule this year.
I disagree with you 100%.
RJ, I can't look. DeAndre Hopkins.
So when they play the Rams again in the second time, he's going to care more about beating his old team than he is winning a key division game against the Rams that might lock up the number 1 seed.
I think DeAndre Hopkins has had this game circled since the day he got traded.
I disagree 100%.
Okay, I'd love to ask him. I tweeted something about Jack Easterby like 2 weeks ago, and like out of nowhere, DeAndre Hopkins finds it and favorited it. Like the dude cares about throwing it back in the Texans' face.
I get he cares and he wants to throw it back in their face. Of course he does, but it doesn't mean you're going to play any harder. That's why when people talk about revenge games, oh, look out, he's going to play harder this week. Is he?
I think I will take the over on Hopkins catches, yards, touchdowns. Give me all the Hopkins in this game. I'll take the Texans too.
3 for 28, and Rondale Moore has 11 for 200. You got a loser.
It's possible. I think that DeAndre Hopkins will have more than 3 for 28, barring.
I think stats-wise, it could show up in the stats because if you're Kyler Murray and Hopkins wants to show out against his team, you could funnel a little bit more to him than you would.
That I agree with. That is 100% accurate. That I agree with.
You might have 8 catches for 150 yards, and you can play
late in the game. Let's get Nuke one to rub it in their face. I could see that happening if it's a blowout. That I understand.
So 2 or 3 touchdowns to Nuke, and then you're like, oh, revenge game paid off, and it's more that anybody could have scored the touchdowns. Kyler just decided we're going to funnel it to the guy that we want to make happy.
Okay. So it matters.
Okay, we just shot down your theory. Move on to the next game.
Okay. I look forward to the the Cardinals winning by 35 and Hopkins and Watt having some choice comments after the game. Bears at Bucs. Beats Bears, Bucs, Battlestar Galactica. Bucs minus 12.5, over under 47. The Justin Fields hype train has cooled significantly, Pete. Maybe this is a spot where he could put up some numbers because the Bucs secondary is extremely questionable, but the Bears offensive line is bad, and Vita Vea is out here looking like the Incredible Hulk, smashing dudes, grabbing Miles Sanders with one arm and tossing him back. Bucs defensive front's a little spooky if you're the Chicago Bears in that offense. Over under 47. What do you like in this game?
Yeah, and it hasn't been the Bucs defensive front hasn't been as good as it's going to be. Let's put it that way. Because JPP took a long time to get back going again, and he's back now, and I think they're going to start getting after the quarterback. I think Joe Tryon in the second half of the season is going to be a beast rushing the passer, and so for that reason, I think this is a mismatch because I think that Bears offensive line is not good, and it's going to cause turnovers and problems for Fields, and he's not playing that well, and. Tampa Bay's defense isn't very good, but I think it's going to be compensated by the fact that they will get after the cornerback and turn the ball over. And I do not think that the Bears are going to slow down Tom Brady. In fact, I don't think anybody's slowing this offense down. I think they're going to put up numbers. Remember, they beat them last year, and that was the game where everybody started questioning whether Brady still had it anymore. So I think you talk about revenge and extra motivation. He's going to look at that film and say, look, this is what they did to me. And he's going to use that, and I think he's going to put up a number. I'll lay the points. I don't love it.
So you're saying that Brady's going to play harder this week? He didn't play hard last week, Pete?
No, he's going to put the extra work in. That might even happen. It has nothing to do with playing hard. There's nothing to do with it.
I leaned to Tampa as well. I almost made it a best bet. Almost made it part of the teaser. I probably will throw it in as at least one of my contest picks because I don't think I have 5 that I like in the contest. Chicago has no passing offense, and you're not going to run against Tampa. So how do you score points? I mean, you're going to have to get some turnovers on Tom Brady and some pick sixes, and I don't see that happening either. So Chicago has a solid D. You can't expect him to shut down Brady, obviously. Chicago's team total is at 16.5. Seems like a great underplay. If you don't want to lay so many points, just take under on 16.5 for Chicago. But I'm okay laying these points, even though it's a lot of points. I don't like laying a lot of points. Just in this matchup, I see Tampa being able to score, and I don't know how the Bears get more than 6, 7, maybe.
Yeah, this is a game where basically last week in my extremely poor record and seeing these elite teams manage to cover just scared me off. We saw the Bucs allow the Eagles to come back through the back door on Thursday night, but again, and then we saw the the Bears just couldn't do it against the Packers. And that was extremely concerning. You feel like if they get in the same situation, they're down 18 points to Tom Brady in the fourth quarter. Do we believe that Justin Fields is going to manage to get down the field against this pass rush and against those bodies that they have and find something? They're just not using Allen Robinson. Fields, he had that touchdown pass to Darnell Mooney last week, but Mooney was open for 5 or 6 seconds before Fields realized it. And just the recognition was very slow. So, man, I think I would take the Bears with the points, but I would not want to bet on this game. I do agree that Tom Brady is putting up historical numbers and may continue to do so. Sunday Night Football, Colts at the 49ers, 49ers -4, over under 44. Revenge game for DeForest Buckner, Pete.
Oh, he's going to be amped up. He's going to be so amped up. It's too bad he wasn't amped up last week. I mean, come on. Look, I like the 49ers this game. I think Garoppolo being back is big for them. Trey Lance wasn't ready. He's got some really amazing skill set in terms of getting outside the pocket and the big arm and everything, but he wasn't ready, I don't think. And I think getting Garoppolo back will be good for them. I think offensively they'll be able to throw the football on them. And again, this Colts defense has really struggled with the pass all year long. I think they'll struggle with the pass here. I think Shanahan's going to have some good things cooked up for them offensively. So I'll take the Niners minus the points. Again, they've been banged up a bunch, and so that's concerning. But now the Colts have, Campbell's out now. What is T.Y. Hilton's status? Is he going to play? If they can't stretch the field, it's easy to cover them, and I think that could be a big issue for them. So I'll take the 49ers minus the points.
With Garoppolo quarterback, I think it's a fair line. I probably put it at 3.5. San Fran lost three straight before the bye, but they had played that poorly. Indy's turning to the team we expected after a tough start, but San Francisco was projected for 2 more wins in the futures market before the season, so they were projected to be a better team. So that's where you get the -4 in. Indy's +7 in turnovers. San Francisco's -5. That's not going to continue long term, especially the fumble luck, which I think is a seven fumble difference between the two. So at 4, I kind of lean Indy. At 3, I kind of lean San Francisco. Not really a strong play either way. So I'm staying away from this one.
I would lean towards the 49ers here. One thing that I think is definitely worth watching about this game, and of course we're recording this on Thursday, and this game is Sunday Night Football, and you need to be a little cautious about betting on weather this early in the week, but just keep an eye on it. Right now, it projects that there's a 99, somewhere between a 92 and 99% chance of rain from 3 p.m. until well after midnight in Santa Clara at the 49ers Stadium. Winds looking like they're going to be through the day in the 17 to 19 mile an hour range, kind of get down around 13 or so for that night game. But if this game, if it pours all day in Santa Clara, that field is going to be disgusting, and it's going to be hard to sort of really run and cover. And I think this could be sloppy. I sort of lean towards the over in this game, but with that kind of weather, you could see it just being like a mutter game that favors the 49ers in the sense that they are a good, or should in theory be a good run team if the offensive line is healthy. If they had any running backs, the Trey Sermon thing really tilting for my entire life. But Indianapolis also number 1 against the run. So I'm starting to think this is maybe a look at the under before everyone realizes what's going on with the weather. And we see just sort of two teams be kind of conservative in those run games. I'll lean towards San Francisco, but don't have a best bet on it. All right. I guess we're only going to do two teams for the parlay.
Could do that. We could take an over under, which I know we're not great at, but Pete likes the over on Chiefs, so we can do that. I don't love it; it's such a huge number, but if you think there's,
do you like the over on the Chiefs, Brinson?
Yeah, I always like the over the Chiefs. Yeah,
so
let's throw it in there. It's a throw it in there.
All right, throw it in there. There we go. There's our 3.
The biggest total of the season. Take the over on it. Can't wait till that's dead. Actually, that's never dead with the Chiefs and the Titans. That could be. We saw with the Bills and the Titans on Monday, 3 points in the first quarter, and that thing shot way over. Okay, so the can't hit, won't hit parlay is the Patriots -7, the Giants +3. Actually going to feel good about this one. And the Chiefs Titans over at 57.5. Pete Prisco's best bets for the week. The Chiefs Titans over, a teaser with the Packers and the Pats Packers currently, it's a good time to get that teaser in too, because the Patriots are -7 and the Packers are -7.5. Both teams at home, both teams against inferior opponents. I like that teaser a lot. RJ's on it as well. I'm going to bet it, which will probably ruin it. The Lions +15, the Eagles +3, the Giants +3, and the Bengals +6. Look at old doggy dog Pete Prisco taking all of these underdogs. Stinky.
Yeah, I'm probably going to regret these, but here I go.
It's a great
RJ's
week for it
best
after
bets.
the covers did so well. It's a great week for it. I think you're pretty golden with those.
Yep. RJ's best bets. Pats -7, Baltimore -6.5, Seattle +4.5, Miami +2.5, and RJ has a teaser with Green Bay -2.5 and New England -1. Again, that teaser you can get. Oh, look at that. Well. Brinson's best bets doesn't matter. They won't win. I actually saw this earlier in the show and pointed out to Debo. He thought he was going to get me, but he's not wrong per se. I mean, so it's got.
You're
it has
due.
to be better than last week by accident,
Oh,
right?
you're due.
Some natural regression. I have the Eagles, Chiefs, and Ravens as my best bets, and it's Eagles, Chiefs, Ravens, and Pats are my 4 best bets. That's all I got this week. This is just a sort of a.
He's been beat down. He's sheepish. He's been beat. They beat the 12 picks a week out of him. He's done.
Which is a great way to catch up. Is now after you put all those losses on the board, you just start putting fewer picks on the board.
It's exactly that. It was 100% what happened.
2023 to catch up. At this point.
Brinson,
Like,
you're
I need
beaten,
some more
man.
best
We're not
bets.
even halfway through the season. You got beat.
What a big jam! Wallace took it in his hands and said, "Up and away, Dunkaroo."
Yeah, it's depressing. All right, we got to flip this thing around. I think this happened to me last week. It came out last year. Came out hot. Got a little comfy. Couple bad weeks. Time to turn the Titanic around. That iceberg's
When
getting
you
close.
don't make it to Halloween and you're already getting beat down, you got problems, son.
I'm tightening up the ship. Trying to tighten things up a little bit, Pete. Tighten
You
up.
know what you should do? Pick 2 games the rest of the year and see if you can catch up.
We'll spread our wings a little bit more. When I like the board, I don't have to like the board every week. All right, 4 best bets for me. That's the show. Let's win some money this week. Turn it around. Get hot. Stay hot. Pete Prisco, RJ White, great stuff as always. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.